Part 22. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 212. Damn it! It's a Yin soldier. The peacock suddenly exclaimed, with a slow panic in his voice. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They didn't expect such an accident. Hurry up, we must retreat and avoid the Yin soldiers who crash into the aisle, Peacock said anxiously, but he seemed a little in a hurry because he couldn't find a way to avoid it. Don't worry, Sumu comforted him, picked up the bamboo pole and started to prop up the raft. He was very strong, and he changed the direction of the raft as soon as he propped it up. I'm not in a hurry, that's the corridor of the Yin soldiers. The most widely circulated legend about the ghost cave here is the corridor of the Yin soldiers. Legend has it that it was a group of soldiers who hid here in ancient times, because they would not die here after they died in battle. I know why I became the Yin soldiers here. People often see the group of Yin soldiers wandering around here from a distance. If someone accidentally bumps into the Yin soldiers, at least they will become dementia, and at worst, they will be directly killed by the Yin soldiers. Drag away the soul and die on the spot. Peacock once met a person who was said to have bumped into the Yin soldiers' corridor and survived by chance. However, it would be better to die than live like that. Peacock urged, and Sumu also started to row sideways, holding the bamboo pole as a bamboo raft. The cold wind became stronger and stronger, and everyone felt that the coldness seemed to come from the underworld, chilling people to the bone. Rumble. The sound of thousands of horses galloping closer and closer. When everyone looked back, they could already see countless Yin soldiers appearing in everyone's field of vision. Hurry up, Peacock was so anxious that he was sweating on his forehead, but the others seemed to have nothing to be afraid of and acted too calmly. Peacock just thought that they had not seen the horror of the Yin soldiers' corridor, so he spoke again. Don't take what I say seriously. Everything I say is true. If we really collide with the Yin soldiers, we may really die. Do not worry, Fat Wang waved to her, saying that there was nothing to worry about. They met Yin soldiers borrowing roads more than once or twice. To say that their understanding of Yin soldiers borrowing roads was not as good as theirs. He looked back and saw the people behind him. As expected, many Yin soldiers have appeared. That group of troops wearing ancient armor is led by a general riding a tall horse, with several guards also riding horses. Behind them is a group of infantrymen holding spears. They marched in uniform steps, carrying bursts of cold air. Everyone saw that the soldier was walking in their direction, as if they were walking on flat ground, walking on the water. Above, the mist rising everywhere under their feet is the Yin Qi that has become substantial. It is so misty that people can't see their feet clearly. The peacock is still urging, looking at the Yin soldiers who are getting closer and closer. So anxious that there was a hint of crying in his voice. Especially when he saw the queue of Yin soldiers passing by the floating corpse, one of the Yin soldiers pulled out a white soul directly from the floating corpse. After being pulled directly into the infantry queue, even the others couldn't help being startled. Even so, everyone was not too panicked. After all, they had encountered this kind of situation in Longling. And there are two big Buddhas such as Sumu and Mina Yuping in the team. Their presence is like a reassurance, so that everyone is not so panicked. However, although Sumu is no longer the first to take advantage of the Yin soldiers, I was frightened when I saw it for the first time, but I still pushed the bamboo raft aside and retreated to the recess of the cave wall, preparing to take shelter. The bamboo raft stopped at the recess of the cave wall, quietly waiting for the Yin soldiers. Leave. Soon, the queue of Yin soldiers arrived in front of Zizi. The closer the Yin soldiers got, the colder the air and temperature around them felt. Even when they breathed, there was a feeling in the air. It felt like cold water mist. It was very cold, so cold that it almost made one's teeth chatter. At this moment, the leading Yin soldier stopped when he walked to the side of the crowd, and slowly turned around head. A pair of deep eyes looked coldly in the direction of everyone. For a moment, everyone seemed to be choked by danger, their breathing was suffocated, and even their heartbeats were pounding in this moment. The beat accelerated. Why did the leader of the Yin soldiers stop? And why did the leader of the Yin soldiers look towards them? Countless thoughts came to my mind in an instant, but I couldn't figure it out at all. That look from the leader of the Yin soldiers, as if looking at each of them, but everyone felt as if the one looking at them was only themselves. Under such a cold gaze, it was like being thrown into ice water in the middle of summer, suffocating with coldness. But he couldn't help but shuddered. Peacock timidly hid behind Sumu and Mi Nayuping, glanced out from the gap between the two, and was frightened by such a sinister look. Numbness, the soles of my feet were soft, and my whole body almost lost strength and fell to the point of falling on the bamboo raft. It's over, they found us, we're done. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 213. It's over, they found us, we're done. Peacock murmured tremblingly, and the scene of them being directly seduced by the Yin soldiers seemed to have begun to appear in his mind. However, the scene she was afraid of did not happen. The leader of the Yin soldiers just glanced at them and restrained his strong cold aura. The moment the leader of the Yin soldiers calmed down, everyone felt that the surrounding air seemed to be getting warmer. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Except for Sumu and Mi Nayuping, who were not affected at all by the scene just now, the others tried their best to maintain a calm posture even if they knew there would be no danger. When facing the leader of the Yin soldiers, the trembling feeling from their souls still made them feel nervous secretly in their hearts. However, when the tension eased, another question came to everyone's mind: since they discovered us, why didn't they attack us? Just when everyone was confused, they saw the leader of the Yin soldiers move his arm, and then the Yin soldiers following him turned around and faced them. The faces of the Yin soldiers were all blue, with traces of ghostly aura lingering all over their bodies, and their expressions were numb and hollow. They looked extremely scary. However, at this moment, these Yin soldiers were led by the leader of the Yin soldiers, heading directly in their direction. He nodded, then turned around and started walking towards the distance. This series of actions of the leader of the Yin soldiers made everyone confused. The leader of the Yin soldiers led a group of Yin soldiers past them. After discovering them, he didn't kill them directly. Instead, he seemed to be very polite. He nodded in their direction before leaving. What was going on? When did the Yin soldiers become so kind and understanding? Watching the group of Yin soldiers drifting away, Sumu also used a bamboo pole to pick up the bamboo. The raft was stretched out from the depression in the cave wall. Peacock was still thinking about what had just happened and looked towards the direction where the Yin soldiers disappeared, wondering, is it strange? Isn't it said that these Yin soldiers will definitely be killed by them after seeing them? If not killed by them, their souls will be directly taken away by them. Even if they are lucky enough to survive, they will live a stupid life for the rest of their lives. Did you let us go just now? Maybe they feel that we are insignificant and that they have passed us by, Fatty Wong said. Haha. Impossible. That's all ghosts. Where does the humanity come from? After saying that, Peacock looked at Sumu and Mi Nayuping, and said with full doubt in his tone, and, I read it right just now, the Yin soldiers nodded this way when they left. Yes, right. Silence, no one spoke. Peacock asked hurriedly, who are you? Even the Yin soldiers are so polite to you. The Yin soldiers, who have always been feared and awe-stricken, actually gave them a nod before leaving. This is simply unbelievable. This is completely beyond Peacock's imagination. Hubei and the others didn't know how to use it for a moment. What words should I use to answer Peacock? Is it really because there are Sumu and Mi Nayuping among them? Then why do they have to be respected by the Yin soldiers? It is too troublesome to explain these things, and these things are also it's all their secrets. Since it's a secret, it can't be easily told to others, so Hubei and the others chose to keep their mouths shut. Just when the others hadn't figured out how to fool them, Sumu was smiling. Jokingly, he said, now that you have discovered it, it will be hard for me to hide it. Ah! What? Peacock looked at Sumu with a blank look on his face, as if he didn't understand why Sumu suddenly said this. Not only was Peacock confused, but other people also looked at Sumu, waiting for what he was going to say. Sumu, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and then he said mysteriously, actually, I am the messenger of the Yin soldiers, so those Yin soldiers nodded to me. Peacock looked confused. Even Fatty Hubei Wang and the others looked at him in shock. However, they quickly reacted and then quietly gave a thumbs up to Sumu. Mina Ping looked at Sumu with interest, while Shirley Yang looked at Sumu with curved eyebrows and a suppressed smile. Peacock obviously hadn't recovered from the news yet, and murmured, the messenger of the Yin soldiers. Is he actually the messenger of Yin soldiers, _? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Marry Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 214. The Messenger of Yin Soldiers. Is he actually the messenger of Yin soldiers? As he said that, Peacock was like a machine that had been delayed for a long time and finally returned to normal. Then he looked at Sumu with admiration and said, wow! You are so powerful? You are actually the messenger of the Yin soldier, so you met the Yin soldier. Don't you have to worry about being seduced by them? No, not just you, even if we walk with you, we no longer have to worry about being seduced by the Yin soldiers. Peacock's voice was full of surprise, which surprised everyone present. The others were taken aback. How innocent is this Peacock to believe such a lie that sounds ridiculous at first sight? In fact, we can't blame Peacock for simply believing in such unfounded things. It's mainly due to customs and habits. The locals have always had the custom of worshipping ghosts and gods, so naturally they believe more in these supernatural related things, and there are ghosts here. The legend of the cave and the Yin soldiers naturally made Peacock believe Sumu's lies even more. All I can say is that this little girl is so sweet. While talking, Shirley Yang on the side was suddenly startled and looked at the water with a confused look on her face. Huh? Why does the color of the river seem to be darker than before? When everyone heard this, they also looked into the river and found that the color of the river fruit here actually looked darker. At first glance, it looked like ink. Strange, the river water has never been this dark before? Is there something here? Now that Peacock knew that Sumu was the messenger of the Yin soldiers, he had grown to admire him very much. Hearing that everyone thought the river water was strange, after thinking about it, he reached out and took off his sunglasses. Well, let me take a look at it for you. As she said that, she looked into the water. Her eyes can see things that others cannot, and if there is anything strange, she can spot it before others do. However, when she looked into the water, she suddenly closed her eyes after just one glance. Well, Peacock felt as if something had hit her head, and she felt dizzy. She opened her eyes hard and tried to look longer. However, the longer she looked, it felt like there was a needle pricking in the sea. Raw pain, ugh, it hurts. Peacock didn't dare to look anymore. She quickly closed her eyes and screamed in pain. In just a moment, she already felt dizzy. She even felt a little unsteady on her feet. Seeing this, Sumu and Mina Ping immediately helped Peacock, preventing her from falling directly into the river due to her stumbling. Peacock, what's wrong with you? Sumu asked hurriedly. Others also looked at the Peacock nervously. The Peacock's reaction just now was really too big. They didn't understand what the Peacock saw that made him look like this. What happened to you just now? Did you see something? Hubei was very anxious. Seeing that Peacock had been supported by Sumyu, he asked. Peacock was rubbing his eyebrows to relieve some lingering dizziness when he heard someone asking himself. He answered, I didn't see anything, I only took one look, and I felt like the world was spinning in front of my eyes. I originally wanted to hold back and look for a little longer, thinking that maybe I could see something clearly, but it took too long to look. The longer it goes on, the more painful it becomes in my head, like a needle prick. I don't dare to look at it anymore. As he said this, Peacock looked at Sumyu with a guilty look on his face and said, I'm sorry. Sumyu didn't expect that Peacock would fight so hard for him, but it was a bit unexpected. After hearing her apology, Sumyu just reached out and handed the sunglasses to Peacock, and urged, since you have a headache and dizziness after watching too much, stop reading now, hurry up and put on your sunglasses. The Peacock's eyes are very useful. Some evil things that they can't even see will be discovered by the Peacock earlier. If such useful eyes are disabled here, then but the gain outweighs the loss. Seeing that the Peacock had put on his sunglasses, Sumyu looked into the water. His night eyes could see the surrounding environment clearly even in the dark night. Now he looked into the water, and after observing carefully for a long time, he still couldn't see it. Nothing found. It's so dark, it's like the light source has been sucked away. Sumyu murmured. What happened? Under normal circumstances, there can't be such a dark place in a cave, unless there is something weird inside. At this time, Min Yuping suddenly pointed towards the cave wall without saying anything, but Hubei still understood. Could it be that there are some natural light-absorbing materials on the surrounding mountain walls that make the light source in this cave look so weak? Even the light source of a strong flashlight cannot be diffused. I just don't know this kind of thing. What exactly are special natural light-absorbing materials? Hubei touched his chin and looked at the cave wall beside him, thinking deeply. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 215. What are light-absorbing materials? Peacock asked very puzzledly. Fatty Wong took the flashlight and shined it on the cave wall nearby, only to find that even the light emitted by the strong flashlight would change after a certain distance. It was so dark and scattered that it was almost impossible to reach the bottom of the rock wall. He pondered for a while and then said, the so-called light-absorbing material actually means that light shines on something and there is no reflection outside the lighting. It does not produce reflections or large flares and reflections, but absorbs light and then diffusely reflects part of the light, thereby maintaining regular light and dark levels. Still don't understand, the Peacock scratched his head, feeling like he was listening to heavenly scriptures. Fatty Wong didn't care whether she understood or not, and said to himself, there is a kind of graphite mineral that is a natural light-absorbing material. It was often used in the tombs of nobles in ancient times. There should be something like that here. Hubei looked at Fatty Wong in surprise and asked, why do you know so much about this thing now? Fatty Wong laughed twice and said, isn't it because of that trip to Longling and the last underwater tomb, the Hanging Soul Ladder? In short, after going through these 2 times, I have specialized in studying this kind of light-absorbing material, and I know a little bit about it. You are modest, Sumyu saw Fatty Wong saying embarrassedly, so he smiled and praised him. Peacock listened at the side and didn't understand what they meant at all. After listening for a while, he no longer struggled with what they were talking about. He stayed aside quietly. Everyone was still talking, but Hubei seemed to have something in his heart. He felt a string in his mind tighten suddenly, and he spoke directly to warn without thinking too much. Said everyone, be careful, there is a situation. When everyone heard this, they immediately used flashlights to shine around nervously. Look over there, Hubei suddenly pointed in a direction. When everyone turned around, they saw countless floating corpses floating on the shoal not far away along the path of their bamboo raft. There were so many of them, and when everyone looked carefully, they could see that you will find that all the floating corpses are shaking at different amplitudes, just like the floating corpse just now. Damn it! Why are there so many floating corpses? Fatty Wang exclaimed, and even the others were also shocked. So many dead people. Peacock is a girl who has never seen so many floating corpses on weekdays. Such a big scene scares her out of her wits. She can only hide behind Sumu, who she thinks is very powerful, and look forward to getting his protection. You see, those floating corpses are moving. They are all the same kind of fish below. Fatty Wang pointed at the floating corpses and exclaimed. Everyone also saw it, and couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in their hearts. There are sword-toothed salmon down there. Menju directly gave the conclusion. After hearing this, everyone couldn't help but think about the appearance of those sword-toothed salmon, and then looked at the number of floating corpses to guess the number of sword-toothed salmon. Suddenly, everyone felt that. All of them? Is this too much? Huba exclaimed, feeling really incredible. Shirley Yang nodded and said, we have to be careful. The knife-toothed salmon is very ferocious. You may have seen what the knife-toothed salmon looks like, with such sharp teeth. If one of you falls down accidentally, alarms them, and waits until they swarm up, I can guarantee that you will be chewed into a skeleton in no more than 10 minutes. When Peacock heard this, he was so frightened that he pressed himself against Sumu, but Shirley and Yang Ruiyu gave him a blank look. So cruel? Fatty Wang asked in disbelief. Shirley Yang nodded and said, only more ferocious. The ancestors of this saber-toothed salmon can be traced back to the aquatic killer tiger-toothed squid in the post-glacial period. Tiger-toothed mongoose. What is that? The tiger-toothed squid was originally a fish species that lived in the ocean. A large group of tiger-toothed squid can kill the dominant king whale in the ocean in an instant. You said that as a descendant of the tiger-toothed squid, the saber-toothed salmon can be so weak that where to go? Damn it, is it so scary? The king of the ocean, Basilosaurus, can be bitten to death in an instant, so just the few of us, can we fill the gap between our teeth? Fatty Wang couldn't help but uttered a curse word, feeling that his heart was trembling along with the group of floating corpses. We should be careful. This kind of fish is a social creature, and its attack power is very strong and ferocious. But as long as we act carefully and don't alarm them, they should not be attacked by the group, Shirley Young suggested. Everyone nodded immediately after hearing this. So, next, Shirley Yang began to arrange the direction of everyone's attention. They needed to pay close attention to the movements of the group of sword-toothed salmon in the water, and if anything went wrong, they should find a way to deal with it as soon as possible. Because on the route of the bamboo raft, there were many floating corpses in front of them blocking their route. To get rid of all the floating corpses required extremely strong physical strength and endurance, so this job was assigned to Shirley Yang. Among the group of them, the one with the best physical strength is naturally Sumu. Huba and Fatty Wang each held a bamboo pole. When the bamboo raft was moving too fast, they used the bamboo pole to support the stone walls on both sides to slow down the bamboo raft. Minayuping, Shirley Yang and Peacock need to pay close attention to the movements of the group of sword-toothed salmon in the water to prevent those sword-toothed salmon from suddenly jumping out and attacking them. After the tasks were assigned, everyone stood at their respective positions and performed their duties. Sumu held the bamboo pennant in front and supported the bamboo raft forward. There were many floating corpses in the water ahead, and there were also many saber-toothed salmon under the floating corpses. He needed very carefully push the floating corpses away with a bamboo pole, trying not to disturb the feeding of the knife-toothed salmon. This is a technical task. If it is not performed well, it may alarm the entire school of saber-toothed salmon and be besieged by the entire school of fish. At that time, their simple bamboo raft will fall apart in an instant. At that time, they know one inside can get out of here alive. Sumu sighed silently, feeling extremely stressed. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 216. Sumu sighed silently, feeling extremely stressed. Fatty Wang and Hubie were okay. They used bamboo poles to prop up the stone walls on both sides from time to time to slow down the bamboo raft and prevent it from going too fast, so that the school of knife-toothed salmon in the water could detect them. They cooperated so closely all the way, and no one dared to speak anymore, for fear that even the sound of speaking would disturb the group of sword-toothed salmon, so they could only hold back their energy all the way, silently enduring this feeling of fear. Chapter 172. When the floating corpse in the water was moved, Sumu could see with his night eyes that under the floating corpse, a fish slightly larger than a palm also moved with the floating corpse. Those fish kept pushing against the body of the floating corpse. It was precisely because they were eating that the upper jaw of the fish was shorter than the lower jaw. If they wanted to bite the meat on the floating corpse, they had to keep pushing against the body of the floating corpse. This also caused the corpse to often the reason for being tossed around by a school of knife-toothed salmon. Occasionally, when Sumu was playing with the floating corpses, one or two sword-toothed salmon would jump out of the water. However, he was lucky enough not to notice the existence of Sumu's bamboo raft, so he did not shift his target to Sumu's bamboo raft. Come on the bamboo raft. Why are there so many corpses here? Sumu was playing with the floating corpse in front, and couldn't help but complain a little in his heart. Although he was quite strong, he still felt a little tired after playing with the corpse floating in the water like this. Sumu cursed in his heart, but after thinking about it, he understood the reason why there were so many corpses here. Peacock also said before that they have a tradition of water burial here, that is, after a person dies, they put a bamboo raft on the river and let it float with the current. It doesn't matter where it floats, but it usually doesn't take long to float in the river. The bamboo raft that was soaked in water naturally sank, and the body was naturally brought into the water. Peacock said before that the water burials held by the people here are always sucked into this ghost cave, so it is not so difficult to explain the situation of floating corpses everywhere. With the tacit cooperation of everyone, the bamboo raft moved forward quietly on the water filled with floating corpses. After a long time, the bamboo raft finally floated a long distance safely with the efforts of everyone. Although there are many floating corpses in front of us, compared to the previous journey, they are obviously much less. Work harder, and it will come out soon. At this time, everyone had the same idea. At this moment, when Sumu was playing with a floating corpse, another sword-toothed salmon suddenly jumped out of the water, but this time it was a sword-toothed salmon was like a bamboo raft sent by Sumu and the others. When it jumped out of the water, it crashed back in the direction of Sumu. Sumu, be careful, Menyuping suddenly opened his mouth to remind. At the same time, Sumu's eyes narrowed, and he stretched out his hand to grab the knife-toothed salmon that hit him hard. Shirley Yang, who was paying attention to the movement ahead, saw Sumu's actions, almost screamed out in fright, but fortunately at the critical moment, Shirley Yang bit her lower lip fiercely, suppressing the screams that had rushed to her throat. Go back. Others were also shocked by Sumu's actions. They looked at Sumu nervously, for fear that the knife-toothed salmon would bite Sumu's hand. Everyone saw the extremely ugly knife-toothed salmon. After being caught in Sumu's hand, a mouthful of sharp teeth kept opening and closing, trying to bite Sumu's hand, while the fish tail was swinging wildly, trying to get under Sumu's control. Returned to the water. After Sumu grabbed the knife-toothed salmon, he was also in trouble. Should he throw it directly back into the water, or should he kill it directly and then throw it back into the water? This question has always been this troubled Sumu and made him hesitate for a moment. Throwing it back into the water could not guarantee that the knife-toothed salmon would not have the intention of revenge and summoned a school of fish to directly attack their bamboo raft. This result was undoubtedly the most popular outcome for everyone. A scene they don't want to face. Another way is to kill the swordtooth salmon directly, and then throw the swordtooth salmon far away. In this way, even if the movement is a bit loud, it will be farther away from them. He should not be attacked by a group of sword-toothed salmon just because of this. Thinking this, Sumyu no longer hesitated, and directly applied force with his palms. Originally, he was still swinging his palms wildly in an attempt to escape from the sword-toothed salmon, but he was directly attacked by Sumyu. Mu squeezed his head to pieces. He threw the sword-toothed salmon out casually. Sumyu was already very strong, so he threw it far away with such a casual throw. Plop, _. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 217. Plop. There was a clear sound of falling into the water, and everyone looked towards that place with their flashlights. They vaguely saw countless shadows swimming towards there quickly. Apparently, it was the knife-toothed salmon that was attracted by the sound of falling into the water. Sumyu looked at his palm and saw that the knife-toothed salmon had been biting him with its sharp teeth. The saw-like teeth were extremely sharp. If his defense hadn't reached the level of a silver corpse, his hands would have been mutilated with blood at this moment. Even now, there are a few white scratch-like marks left on his palm, which are all left by the teeth of the knife-toothed salmon. It can leave marks on its own skin, which shows how terrifying the attack power of the knife-toothed salmon is. Sumyu's recovery power was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, the marks on his palm began to fade away. Sumyu didn't care and continued to fiddle with the floating corpses blocking his way. The progress of the bamboo raft was not very fast, but it still advanced a long distance without any danger. At this time, the floating corpses on the water were no longer as dense as before. Therefore, relatively speaking, there should not be as many saber-toothed salmon in the water as before. This made everyone's high-spirited hearts slightly relieved, but they did not dare to let go. Menjubo's flashlight shone around and above his head. Although the light was not strong, it still allowed people to vaguely see what the surrounding environment looked like. I saw countless stalactites hanging from the top of the cave wall. The stalactites vary in size and length, and the shapes of those stalactites are all weird. Some stalactites are like a conch, and some stalactites are like sharp arrows. Water droplets will fall from those stalactites from time to time. When they are densely packed, the silent cave space is like hearing the sound of rain. Same. Some water drops dripped on the rock wall, and accumulated over the years. Countless stalagmites were piled on the rock wall. Those stalagmites stood scattered on the rock walls of the shallows along the coast, like fangs. Some stalagmites grow in strange positions, growing diagonally. Therefore, when some floating corpses drift to the edge of the shoal, they will be stuck by the growing stalagmites, and then pile up directly in those places. There are so many stalactites here, Fat Wang murmured. Others were also looking at the surrounding environment and did not pay attention to what he was talking about. It was not clear from a distance. The light-absorbing material in the hole made it almost impossible to shine the light of the flashlight. As for any effect, everyone just made a general observation and stopped paying attention to it. Use bright flashlights sparingly, Minayuping reminded me. Yes, you can't leave it on for a long time, it's too wasteful. Hearing this, Hubei and the others nodded and turned off the Lanja flashlights in their hands. Strong searchlights consume a lot of energy and cannot be used for long periods of time. And in this kind of cave with light-absorbing materials, only strong searchlights can have a little effect. So everyone decided to open it every 1 or 2 minutes to check the surrounding environment. The bamboo raft was drifting at a constant speed. Even if there were not as many saber-toothed salmon in the area where they were now as before, they did not dare to speed up and leave. Everyone waited quietly, and from time to time they would use strong flashlights to illuminate the road ahead. They all cooperated tacitly, and they walked out safely from the dense floating corpses. Seeing that they were about to leave the floating corpse area completely, everyone was very happy. Where are we now? Shirley Yang looked around while turning on the flashlight, but the almost identical environment did not give her any judgment. Why do I feel like we have been drifting for a long time? Hu Bei also whispered. They have been moving forward in the darkness. Although the flashlight occasionally brings some light, it is still easy to ignore the passage of time because of the darkness. No one knows how long it will take to get out, not even Peacock. She has never been in, so naturally she can't give them any answers. The bamboo raft was still drifting slowly, and everyone discovered a problem. It seemed to be getting colder and colder as we drifted inside. From time to time, there would be a cold wind blowing, and we didn't know which direction it was blowing from. People feel chilly. Look, what is that? At this moment, Peacock suddenly pointed to the distance and exclaimed. After hearing the words, everyone looked towards the place she pointed, and saw that there were little green flames flickering and beating in the mid-air in that direction. It's a will-o'-the-wisp. Peacock looked carefully, and suddenly he was so frightened that he hid behind Sumu and shouted in panic, there is a ghost over there. Don't be afraid yet, there are no ghosts over there. Sumu helplessly comforted the peacock and said. Ever since the peacock heard Sumu say that he was the messenger of the Yin soldiers and believed what Sumu said, he believed every word of Sumu. Now, Sumu comforted her and said there was no ghost. Peacock tried his best to calm down his fear and stuck his head out to look at the place where the fire was dancing again. Those are will-o'-the-wisps, the elders said, they are the soul lamps that guide the soul after death. If you see the will-o'-the-wisps, those willow-wood fires will follow that person, and that person's soul will follow them to the netherworld, Peacock said tremblingly. Sumu laughed and said those rumors are all false, how could it be something that attracts souls? Ah! Fake, Peacock was surprised. Shirley Yang on the side couldn't stand it anymore and explained the so-called will-o'-the-wisp is actually the phosphorus fire produced after death. Wildfire, the peacock looked confused. That's right, it's phosphorus fire. Shirley Yang continued to explain phosphorus fire is a very common substance in nature. It usually appears in cemeteries or places with dead people on dry days in summer, but occasionally it also appears in cities. That's not something that guides ghosts, but the body undergoes changes after decay, producing phosphine, which is a gas that can spontaneously ignite. Phosphine has a very low ignition point, so it can easily ignite on its own. As for the will-o'-the-wisp that you said will follow people, it's easy to explain. The gas is very light and will move when the wind blows. When a person walks past the will-o'-the-wisp, the tiny airflow brought about by walking can drive the phosphorus fire. Which is why superstition says that will-o'-the-wisps follow people. Shirley Yang's explanation was very detailed, and it also opened a door called science to Peacock. At this moment, she suddenly shattered what she had believed in for many years. It was also the first time for others to hear such a detailed explanation, and they were also surprised that the will-o'-the-wisp came from this way. However, they were surprised, but they were not like the peacock, who felt like their worldview was shattered. As the bamboo raft drifts along the river, there are more and more will-o'-the-wisps along the way. There are often 3 or 4 green clumps of green will-o'-the-wisps dancing in the shallows along the river bank. They really look like ghosts in the dark cave. The dance makes people feel a little scared. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 218. Some scattered will-o'-the-wisps floated on the river. As the bamboo raft drifted by, the airflow caused the will-o'-the-wisps to move along with their bamboo raft. Even if Peacock listened to Shirley Yang's explanation of the origin of the will-o'-the-wisp, it would still take a little time to change his long-standing cognition. Now I saw those green will-o'-the-wisps floating behind the bamboo raft. I was so frightened that I hid behind Sumu, not daring to look any further. Seeing Peacock's subconscious behavior, Shirley Yang felt a little uncomfortable. After all, Sumu was her husband. At the moment, she was just trying not to get angry. She just felt that the current situation was special and it was not the time to settle accounts with him. So I could only swallow all the discomfort I felt in my stomach. When it was really uncomfortable, I just glared at Sumu. Those few will-o'-the-wisps were still floating behind the bamboo raft. As time went by, everyone became accustomed to it. The bamboo raft slowly drifted towards the depths, and the passing will-o'-the-wisps could also illuminate some of the surrounding environment for everyone. After drifting like this for a while, everyone realized that they would soon be leaving the waters full of floating corpses. Because not far in front of them, there was a place similar to the entrance of a cave. Near the entrance of the cave, the floating corpses had disappeared. It's finally time to leave this stretch of water. Everyone was happy, and even Sumu's strength to hold up the bamboo raft increased unknowingly. Without Hubei and Fatty Wang's deliberate slowing down, and with Sumu's strength to hold it up, the raft went straight up. He speeded up and drifted towards the place that looked like the entrance of a cave. As they got closer, everyone realized that the entrance of the cave was very tall. There were many will-o'-the-wisps lingering on both sides of the entrance, illuminating the scene in this area. Phew! I saw several stalactites hanging from the top of the cave entrance, and even the rock walls on both sides of the cave entrance below were covered with many stalagmites. Each stalactite was thick enough to be hugged by a person. Against the backdrop of those will-o'-the-wisps, from a distance, it looks like it is on a body of water with ghosts floating around. A huge monster opens its mouth, and it looks like a deep door leading to the netherworld. Why does this cave entrance look so scary? At this time, we have almost left the waters of the sword-tooth salmon, so everyone is no longer afraid that the sound of speaking will alarm those ferocious sword-tooth salmon, and we can finally speak loudly with confidence. It's so dark in here, the peacock looked at the tall hole and exclaimed. Suma glanced inside with his night eyes and found that he could not see clearly what was going on inside, probably because of the light-absorbing materials on the surrounding cave walls. The water flow in this section was a little faster, and the bamboo raft kept flowing smoothly. Suma put away the bamboo pole and let the bamboo raft flow in the direction of the cave. Suddenly, Sumu seemed to have another sense, and his eyes fell on the water not far ahead. With just one glance, he seemed to see something flashing through the water. Could it be knife-tooth salmon? Sumu was doubtful, but after thinking about it, he felt that the figure he saw just now was not the same as the sword-tooth salmon, but it was somewhat similar to the huge figure Sumu had just seen in the water. Could it be? When Sumu was thinking about whether it was the huge creature he had guessed, the peacock on the side pointed at the position Sumu was looking at and exclaimed. I just saw something swimming in the water. Sumu frowned and said, sure enough, I wasn't wrong. What are you talking about? Hubei asked. The peacock quickly pointed to the water and said in panic, I just saw something big swimming in the water. Hubei said indifferently, it's so dark, did you see it wrong? Peacock shook his head quickly and said, no, absolutely not, I promise. As she spoke, she raised her hands as if to swear. Seeing how determined she was, others also believed what Peacock said. I just saw it too. Sumu's words directly convinced everyone of this fact. I suspect there is something big under the water, so everyone should pay attention. Everyone nodded in agreement, saying that they would always pay attention. At this time, the bamboo raft had left the waters of the knife-tooth salmon and entered the huge cave entrance. The bamboo raft had been drifting for less than a minute when Fatty Wang suddenly said angrily, fuck, something hit me. Did you hit something? Hubei asked in confusion. He thought that Fatty Wang had hit the hanging stalactite, but after thinking about it, he thought it was impossible. In order to see the scene in the cave clearly, Hubei turned on the strong searchlight. When he shined the light around, what he saw made everyone tremble with fear. On the top of the cave's head, there were densely hanging many giant cocoons as tall as a person. Those giant cocoons shone under the light. It is gray-brown in color and covered with dust. It seems that it has been hanging here for who knows how many years. What is this? Fatty Wang exclaimed. Did we enter the spider spirit's hole? Is this a cocoon spun by a spider? Who? Ba glanced at Fatty Wang speechlessly and said, I'm afraid you haven't read too many novels. Take a closer look at the appearance of those cocoons. Hearing this, Fatty Wang began to look carefully at the giant cocoons hanging above everyone's heads, and others also began to observe. When everyone saw what those giant cocoons were, they all opened their eyes in shock. Those inside the giant cocoon, all the bodies were wrapped. Those human-shaped giant cocoons were like hanging ghosts, hanging upside down 1 foot from the water. The scene was extremely horrifying and gave people a very terrifying sense of oppression. Damn it, why are there so many corpses hanging here? Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 219. Damn it, why are there so many corpses hanging here? Fat Wang cursed and stretched out his hand to touch the spot where he had just hit. He felt very unlucky. Mi Nayuping took a look at the densely packed giant cocoons and said in a deep voice, looking at the degree of weathering on the outside of these giant cocoons, it should be ancient figurines. Why are so many figurines hung here? Hubei carefully avoided the human figurines above his head and said strangely. Not only Hubei was curious, but other people also couldn't figure out why there were so many corpses hanging as human figurines. In this dark cave? Is it some weird magic? Or some ancient way of worship? Hubei said doubtfully. This is the evil technique of Xian Wang, Sumu suddenly said. Wrong technique. What is that? Hubei asked in confusion. The evil arts, poison, and head-dropping are jointly called the 3 major evil arts in southern Yunnan. The evil arts and poison were once very popular in Yunnan. They all used insects in nature to kill people. Mi Nayuping opened his mouth and explained. Shirley Yang nodded when he heard the words and said, I have studied the history of the ancient Dian kingdom. In various historical records, the mysterious and ancient Chu is just passed by. There is no detailed description. Even if there is, it's just a few words, but in unofficial history, it was mentioned that the use of extermination to make women pregnant and lay eggs must be waited until the 10th month of pregnancy and childbirth, and then the woman was tortured to death, so that she would be frightened when she was about to die. Only with hatred will it pass through her body and penetrate into the eggs she laid when she died. Only in this way can it become toxic. This is a very powerful type of vicious poison. Damn it! Such a vicious technique is simply unconscionable, Fatty Wang said indignantly. So now these are all human figurines made using the art of evil. They should all be filled with goo worms raised on corpses, Hubei said. The human figurine we met on the edge of the cliff before should be the same as these human figurines, Shirley Yang said. Thinking of the corpse water and maggots that had been splashed all over the body by that human figurine before, Fatty Wang couldn't help but feel nauseated. He tilted his head and retched a few more times, and looked at the hanging human figurines. Eyes full of disgust. Sumu, do you think this is King Xian's evil technique? So these human figurines were all made by King Xian, Hubei suddenly asked. Is King Xian so heartbroken? What do you want to do with so many human figurines? Fatty Wang said doubtfully. Raise poisonous insects. Man Yuping's words were concise and to the point. As soon as he said these words, everyone was filled with indignation, but Sumu had other considerations. There are already so many evil figurines in this cave. I don't know where they are. What more incredible things will he encounter after this? And the giant creature that has been hiding in the water is also something that Sumu has always been afraid of. After recalling the plot in the original work, Sumu also remembered that in this water there was a mechanism in the water that he was more concerned about. Sumu thought about it. There was a hidden mechanism under the water, which was the mechanism that activated these human figurine bombs. If that mechanism was accidentally touched, the human figurines will be activated directly. When the time comes, they will all fall down and explode. The goo worms inside will be enough for them to drink a pot. Everyone should be careful. I'm afraid there are other things in the water. Sumu couldn't tell directly about the trap in the water, because it was hard to explain how he knew it, so Sumu could only give a subtle reminder to let everyone pay more attention. Good. Everyone agreed upon hearing the words and began to carefully avoid those human figurines. The bamboo raft moved forward slowly, and everyone just walked through the dense jungle of human figurines. Looking at the very close human figurines, everyone just felt my own nerves are being challenged. It seems that I can smell the stench coming from those human figurines in my nostrils. Although they all wear gas masks, the disgusting feeling seems to be engraved on their souls. Same, can't get rid of it. Sue, brother Sue, can we hurry up? It's so scary here. The peacock cowered and didn't dare to look up at the densely packed human figurines. It didn't even dare to speak too loudly, for fear of disturbing the human figurines. Sumu listened carefully and finally heard what the peacock was saying, but there was no way to speed up. He couldn't hold up the bamboo pole for fear of accidentally poking the hidden mechanism. Thinking of this, Sumu could only say to the peacock with great regret, "Don't be afraid, you will be able to leave here soon." Although he didn't know how many of these human figurines there were, as long as they kept drifting, they would always be able to get out of here. While talking, Sumu's night eyes suddenly saw a black figure quickly attacking everyone from above. Careful! You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 220. Careful! Sumu exclaimed, and immediately picked up the penny at his feet. He grabbed it casually and swung the penny forward, only to hear a muffled bang sound. The dark figure that was attacking everyone was shot away by Sumu and fell into the water. What was that thing just now? Shirley Yang was a little frightened. She held a flashlight and shined it in the direction where the black figure fell, but she could only vaguely see a few bursting bubbles left on the water in that place. Sumu raised his head and glanced at where the black shadow fell. He thought deeply. It seems that what fell just now should be a human figurine. Human figurines. I breathed a sigh of relief and said, I was shocked. I thought it was some kind of rice dumpling coming towards me. After thinking about it, I continued, but why did the figurine suddenly fall down? Fatty Wong joked, is it because it was hung for too long and the cocoon silk broke? Are you kidding me? Have you been hanging for so many years? It makes no sense for us to fall off as soon as we arrive. Look over there. Before I finished speaking, Mina Yuping's voice rang out. After hearing the words, everyone looked in the direction Mina Yuping was pointing, and saw that the water surface where the human figurine fell before seemed to have something. Something is floating up. It's the human figurine, I exclaimed. Sumu frowned and looked at it. His night eyes could see more clearly than others. On the side of the water he saw, the human figurines he had knocked into the water floated. When it came up, Sumu originally thought it was just floating up, but he was surprised to find that the human figurine actually came to life after encountering water. It moved. At this time, other people also saw the human figurine moving. They saw the human figurine struggling in the water, and the giant cocoon silk threads originally tied to it seemed to have melted in the water, and all of them scattered, revealing the true face of the human figurines inside. Ah! Under the illumination of the flashlight, the terrifying appearance directly frightened the timid peacock to the point of screaming. Even others felt their hearts twitching fiercely under the stimulation of that terrifying appearance. After losing the restraints of the cocoon shell, the original appearance of the human figurine was very ugly. Countless maggots were crawling on the large area of rotten body. In some places, the bones turned into black and gray could be seen, and there were hanging marks on the face. There were countless pieces of meat, and there were finger-sized worms crawling around in the dark eye sockets. The figurine kept struggling, and the cocoon silk on its body peeled off bit by bit in the water. As the cocoon shell peeled off, large pieces of rotten flesh on the figure's body fell into the water along with the cocoon shell. There were still some humanoid features on the figurines, but now they were so rotten that only half flesh and half skeletons were left. Damn, this is so fucking disgusting, Fatty Wong couldn't help but curse, and once again thought of the human figurine that disgusted him. Looking at the human figurine now in the water, Fatty Wong felt his stomach churn. You see, something seems to be falling out of the flesh of the figurine. Although the attentive Shirley Yang was disgusted with such terrifying human figurines, she still noticed the changes in the human figurines. As the human figurines struggled, a lot of rotten flesh fell into the water. And there were a lot of white things among the rotten meat. Those were insect eggs. When those eggs fell into the water, they burst open in the water very quickly, and strips of red emerged from the eggs. Brown water. What it is? Hubei exclaimed. The peacock's face changed drastically after just one glance, and he exclaimed, "It's a water pigby, that's a water pigby." As he said that, Peacock was so frightened that he lost his balance and almost fell into the water. Fortunately, Min Yuping quickly grabbed her with his eyes and hands and rescued her. What is a water wasp? Shirley Yang looked at her and asked hurriedly. The peacock was so frightened that he couldn't speak. Sumu knew a little bit about it, so he quickly explained water hoppers are leeches, but they are more talkative than ordinary leeches. The color changes, because their attack power is even more terrifying. They will lay eggs on organisms floating on the water, and their eggs will quickly shed their shells and expand after encountering water until they are as long as a hand, and the big ones can be as big as 2 fingers. While talking, everyone saw under the light of the flashlight that the water wasps that had shed their shells in the water quickly expanded as Sumu said, and began to swim quickly towards the direction of the bamboo raft. Ah, don't come here. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 221. Ah, don't come here. The peacocks watched the large number of water wasps swimming towards them, and they were so frightened that they screamed in terror. She knows how scary these water drones are. As long as she is stuck to those water drones, they will definitely suck all the blood from her body. Even her body will be used as a place to raise the next generation. Damn it! So much, Hubei and Fatty Wong also looked at the water wasps and cursed secretly, and prepared to kill those who dared to climb onto the bamboo raft. Those water wasps are very fast and there are many of them. There are countless insect eggs inside a human figurine. When those eggs hatch in water, they turn into countless densely packed water wasps in front of you. Everyone was on standby, and Sumu Zhengzin frowned. He never had any contempt because of their small size. He knew that in nature, insects are actually the most powerful species in the world. They are ignored just because their size limits their power. The strength and vitality of insects are the strongest on the earth. Once the number of insects reaches a certain value, they can easily bite a person to death. There are even some insects that are highly poisonous in themselves, and only one of them is enough to kill an elephant directly. At this moment, Sumu could not directly support the bamboo raft to speed up the bamboo raft, because there were still many human figurines hanging upside down above their heads, which seriously hindered their movement speed. If the bamboo pole accidentally pokes another figurine into the water, more water wasps will hatch in the water. How to deal with so many water wasps? Fat Wong scratched his head and said anxiously. Salt Men Yuping spoke concisely. Folks have always said that salt can be used to deal with leeches, so Mi Nayuping immediately thought of this method and said it without hesitation. Fatty Wang was stunned, but he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Say, little brother Zhang, where can I find salt at this time? I turned around to ask Hu Bei if he had any good ideas. I saw that Hu Bei was still wandering around at this critical moment. He couldn't help but shout loudly, "Old Hu, why are you in such a daze? Think of a solution quickly." Hu Bei was thinking about another question. If these human figurines are used to raise water pig bees, then the water pig bees raised by King Xian, who spent so much time and effort on making human figurines, will be fine. It's certainly not that simple. Shirley Yang nodded and said, I have said before that the evil arts are evil arts. I have read relevant information and found that the evil arts use the souls of the deceased as a medium to transfer the resentful souls to other creatures, turning non-toxic and harmless creatures into deadly weapons or poisons. Everyone was very nervous looking at the water wasps that had hatched and swelled and began to swim quickly towards their bamboo raft. What to do? What to do? Everyone is here. The peacock felt that his whole body was trembling, and all the water pigeons swam over in dense numbers. Almost all the water was filled with water pigeons. Don't panic, everyone, those water wasps can't climb onto the bamboo raft. Sumu loudly calmed everyone's emotions, and then took the bamboo pole to carefully and quickly push the bamboo raft forward. After hearing the words, everyone looked into the water and saw the water wasps swimming towards the bamboo raft. Sure enough, they could only gather next to the bamboo raft. Just as Sumu said, they couldn't climb onto the bamboo raft. Then they breathed a little relieved in their hearts. This is not the way to go. I feel like I have trypophobia just looking at it. Fat Wang glanced at the water bees that were all gathered next to the bamboo raft. They were so densely packed that it made people's scalp numb. The peacock no longer dared to look at the water. One of them squatted on the bamboo raft with its eyes closed and shivered. Mi Nayuping didn't speak, but kept vigilant against the human figurines above his head to prevent them from falling down again. Hu Bei and Shirley Yang were quickly thinking about any way to eliminate these water wasps. Sumu also saw the scene of those gathering of water bees, and he hissed softly, feeling like his hairs were standing on end. He just took one look and didn't want to see the dense scene again, and then said, "Everyone just be careful. Although those water wasps can bite people very hard, they can only stay in the water and will not fly out of the water. So we just need to be careful and stay on the bamboo raft and don't fall into the water. There is no need to worry. Those water wasps bit us." Everyone felt that this should be the case after hearing the words. Now they can't think of any way to get rid of or eliminate these dense water wasps, so naturally they can only let it go for the time being. Sumu held onto the bamboo raft and continued moving forward, because the bamboo raft was quite spacious when it was made, and it was made of large bamboos tied together. Its load-bearing capacity was pretty good. Even if a few of them stood on it, the water would not be very deep. But then as the bamboo raft moved forward, Sumu found that the strength required to push the bamboo raft forward was slightly greater than before. Sumu looked back towards the water suspiciously, and saw that all the water wasps were attracted to it. When they arrived on the bamboo raft, the number accumulated more and more, directly increasing the weight of the bamboo raft. Seeing Sumu turn around, Shirley Yang asked, "What happened?"